I think it's very important that tradition stays, and tradition has a huge part of all this. But there's also points where you look at tradition and go, is that still fit for purpose today? Is that still the right thing to do? Are we still doing and having the most impact we could be having?
Something extraordinary is happening inside the ancient corridors of Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle. A shift so profound, so deliberate, and so consequential that historians may one day look back at this precise moment as the turning point of the modern British monarchy. Prince William, the Prince of Wales, the man destiny has chosen to one day wear the crown of England, is no longer quietly waiting in the wings. He is stepping forward, drawing hard lines, and making demands that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. And at the center of this seismic royal upheaval stands one woman, Queen Camilla, whose circle of family, friends, and allies is reportedly being systematically dismantled by a future king who has decided that patience is no longer a virtue he can afford. To understand how Britain arrived at this extraordinary crossroads, one must first understand the man Prince William has become. Gone is the quietly diplomatic prince who smiled graciously at state dinners and carefully avoided controversy. In his place stands a determined, focused, and at times uncompromising heir who has watched the institution he loves absorb crisis after crisis. His brother Harry's dramatic departure, Prince Andrew's catastrophic downfall, and now his father King Charles's very public battle with cancer. William has absorbed every blow, studied every mistake, and drawn one overriding conclusion: the monarchy must be protected, even if that means making deeply personal and politically uncomfortable decisions, even if it means confronting the woman his father chose as his queen. The tensions between William and Camilla did not emerge overnight. Those who have studied the royal family closely know that this relationship has always carried the weight of painful history beneath its polished public surface. William grew up watching his mother, the beloved Princess Diana, suffer through one of the most publicly dissected marriages in modern history. He was a child when the world learned about his father's relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles, and he was a teenager when his parents divorced, their marriage fractured beyond repair. The wounds from that period never fully healed. For years, William managed those wounds with remarkable discipline, developing what observers described as a workable, occasionally warm relationship with his stepmother. But relationships forged over pain are inherently fragile, and it appears the current crisis surrounding King Charles's health has cracked that fragile foundation wide open. King Charles III's cancer diagnosis changed everything. When a monarch falls ill, the entire machinery of the royal family must recalibrate, and nowhere has that recalibration been more tense or more consequential than in the relationship between William and Camilla. Sources familiar with the internal dynamics of the palace have described William as genuinely alarmed by the physical toll that a full royal schedule is taking on his 76-year-old father. He has reportedly raised his concerns multiple times through appropriate channels, urging those around the king to reduce his public-facing commitments and prioritize his recovery above all diplomatic and ceremonial obligations. Each time, those efforts have met resistance, and according to insiders, William has increasingly come to believe that the primary source of that resistance is Camilla herself. This is the heart of the conflict. Camilla, by all accounts, believes that King Charles derives enormous psychological and emotional sustenance from his work. She has reportedly argued that forcing an active, engaged man like Charles to step back from his duties could be more damaging to his spirit than the physical demands of the role itself. There is a genuine logic to this position, and some of Charles's oldest friends have suggested it reflects a deep understanding of the man she married. But to William, this reasoning feels not like devotion. It feels like an obstacle. He sees a father whose health is declining, a schedule that any reasonable observer would describe as demanding, and a stepmother who he believes is prioritizing the symbolism of a functioning monarchy over the very real physical needs of a sick man. From where William stands, there is nothing loving about that calculus. The breaking point, according to multiple sources, came in the form of a specific event that crystallized months of simmering frustration into something far more direct and confrontational. Reports indicate that William began making explicit demands regarding who Camilla maintains close relationships with, arguing that certain associations, particularly those connected to Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, represent unacceptable reputational risks for the monarchy at a deeply vulnerable moment. The ultimatum, as it has been described by those familiar with the situation, was stark. Certain individuals needed to be distanced, certain relationships severed, and the Queen needed to align herself with William's vision for the institution's future. The demands extended beyond Andrew and Sarah Ferguson to encompass a broader review of Camilla's personal network. Family members, old friends, and the extended Parker Bowles circle who have built lives and identities in the reflected glow of royal association. Camilla, to her credit, did not capitulate quietly. She has spent years building credibility, surviving scandal, and transforming herself from one of Britain's most controversial figures into a genuinely respected queen consort and then queen. She earned that standing through persistence, through public service, and through a stubbornness that those who know her describe as one of her defining characteristics. She reportedly pushed back against William's demands regarding her personal friendships, defending long-standing loyalties that she has maintained across decades and through circumstances far more turbulent than the current disagreement. Friends of Camilla's have suggested that she views William's behavior as a profound overreach, the actions of a man who is not yet king attempting to exercise authority that belongs, for now, to someone else. And yet that is precisely what makes the situation so historically unusual and constitutionally fascinating. William is not simply behaving like an impatient heir. He is behaving like a regent, a man who has decided, whether anyone formally agrees or not, that the time for transition has effectively begun. He has watched his father's reign absorb the fallout from Harry and Meghan's departure, the humiliation of Andrew's association with Jeffrey Epstein, and the relentless tabloid coverage that accompanies every royal misstep. He has studied these crises and concluded that the monarchy's survival depends on radical streamlining. Fewer members, tighter circles, harder lines on who belongs inside the institution's protective walls and who must remain outside. In William's blueprint for the future monarchy, there's very little room for sentiment, for old friendships, or for family ties that carry reputational baggage. The Parker Bowles family, Camilla's relatives who have benefited from their proximity to the crown, reportedly figure prominently in William's plans for restructuring. Royal watchers have long noted that one of the quietly contentious elements of Camilla's elevation to queen has been the simultaneous rise in prominence and opportunity enjoyed by her extended family. William, according to those familiar with his thinking, views these associations through an entirely unsentimental lens. They represent liabilities, not assets. In his vision of a leaner, more disciplined monarchy, the relationships Camilla has cultivated over decades of royal life will be subject to the same ruthless review that he intends to apply to every corner of the institution. What makes this moment genuinely historic is that it represents something beyond an ordinary family dispute. Constitutional experts who have observed the British monarchy through multiple generations have noted that what is unfolding is, in effect, an early and visible transfer of power within the institution itself. William is not waiting for a formal investiture or a legal transfer of authority. He is asserting dominance through relationships, through demands, and through the sheer force of his position as the undisputed future of the crown. The current queen may hold her title, but the future king is already shaping the world she will inhabit when that title is all she has left. For Camilla, the stakes could hardly be more personal. Royal experts have noted that her position after Charles is gone will depend almost entirely on William's goodwill. Unlike a parliamentary statute or a formal legal right, the day-to-day reality of a dowager queen's life, the access, the staff, the residence, the public role, is determined by the reigning monarch. William will one day control all of that. He will decide whether Camilla is a respected elder stateswoman of the royal family or a quietly sidelined figure whose public appearances diminish year by year until she fades entirely from view. What the world is witnessing right now is the price of that dependency being negotiated in real time, behind palace walls that are no longer quite as soundproof as they used to be. A son is fighting for his father. A future king is drawing the boundaries of his reign. And a woman who has survived more than most people could imagine is standing her ground against a force that grows stronger with every passing day. The British monarchy has endured revolution, abdication, war, and scandal. It will endure this too, but when the dust finally settles, The institution that emerges will bear William's unmistakable stamp, harder, leaner, and shaped by the fierce determination of a man who decided, long before his time officially came, that he could no longer afford to wait.